Welcome to Science Magazine program. On 11th of May 2025 at Dr. Ambedkar International Center, New Delhi, Technology Development Board commemorated National Technology Day in the gracious presence of Dr. Jitendra Singh, Union Minister of Science and Technology, Government of India. After lighting of ceremonial lamps and Saraswati Vandana,
शिल्पम विज्ञान संघेन निर्मितम लोक रक्षणे. Technology born from the union of knowledge and science is created for the welfare and protection of the world. It arises for the benefit of humanity through the application of engineering and innovation.
Dr. Rajesh Pathak, Secretary, Technology Development Board, in his welcome address said,
सर्वप्रथम आप लोगों का मैं प्रौद्योगिकी विकास बोर्ड की तरफ से और पूरे डीएसटी परिवार की तरफ से राष्ट्रीय प्रौद्योगिकी दिवस नेशनल टेक्नोलॉजी डे पर बहुत बहुत बधाई और शुभकामना देता हूं और आप सबका हार्दिक स्वागत करता हूं। आज के ही दिन मदर्स डे भी है, तो इस अवसर पे मैं मातृबंधन के साथ साथ सारी मातृशक्ति का सादर नमन भी करता हूं। साथियों, ये एक ऐसा दिन हम सबके जीवन में भी होता है और एज ए राष्ट्र की बात करें, उसी में एक 11th मई भी एक ऐसा दिन है जो अविस्मरणीय है, जहां हम लोगों ने अपनी साइंटिफिक ताकत को पूरे विश्व को दिखलाया था। और उसके बाद जो पोखरण ब्लास्ट के बाद भारत सरकार ने ये निर्णय लिया कि हम लोग नेशनल टेक्नोलॉजी डे 11th मई को मनाएंगे। और ये 1999 से शुरू हुआ और टेक्नोलॉजी डेवलपमेंट बोर्ड को ये कार्यक्रम को करने का सुअवसर प्राप्त हुआ। उसके बाद से लगातार हम लोग इसको करते रहे हैं और संयोग से जो इसकी 25वीं सालगिरह आप कह सकते हैं 2023 में, वो हम लोगों ने करीब पूरा 12 मिनिस्ट्री और डिपार्टमेंट के साथ मिलकर कार्यक्रम किया था, नेशनल टेक्नोलॉजी वीक सेलिब्रेट किया था, जिसमें हमें माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का मार्गदर्शन प्राप्त हुआ था। आज हम लोग 27th एडिशन ऑफ नेशनल टेक्नोलॉजी डे मनाने के लिए यहाँ सब एकत्रित हुए हैं। अटल जी की एक कविता, चूंकि पहला नेशनल टेक्नोलॉजी डे दिदेन प्राइम मिनिस्टर अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी ने शुरू किया था, तो उनकी कविता का मैं एक अंश कहना चाहूंगा जो कि मोटो भी है। अपनी ध्येय यात्रा में हम कभी रुके नहीं हैं और किसी चुनौती के समक्ष झुके नहीं। सो हम लोग साइंटिफिक कम्युनिटी भी सारे चुनौतियों में, चाहे वो किसी भी लेवल पे हमारे पास आया हो, हमने उसको बाधा को पार किया है। इसी संदर्भ में जब हम भविष्य की बात करते हैं तो मुझे एक कोट याद आता है एलन के का, जिसको फादर ऑफ पर्सनल कंप्यूटर भी कहा जाता है, अमेरिकन कंप्यूटर साइंटिस्ट थे। उन्होंने कहा था, द बेस्ट वे टू प्रेडिक्ट फ्यूचर इज टू क्रिएट इट। तो शायद 11th मई 1998 को हम लोगों ने एक भविष्य के निर्माण की आधारशिला रखी थी, जिसके बेसिस पे हम ये फ्लरिश कर रहे हैं। और आज 26, 25, 27 साल के बाद बहुत सारे साइंटिफिक इनोवेशंस हम लोगों ने अपने लेवल पे किया है भारत की तरफ से। आज का थीम जो यंत्रा रखा गया है इस पूरे नेशनल टेक्नोलॉजी डे सेलिब्रेशन के लिए, एक अपने आप में एक अद्भुतपूर्व थीम है। जब हम कहते हैं युगांतर, युगांतर का मतलब होता है कि हम एक नए युग में प्रवेश कर रहे हैं। और इसकी प्रेरणा हमें कहीं, जो माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने 15 अगस्त 2022 को रेड फोर्ट से जब उन्होंने जय अनुसंधान ऐड किया था और कहा था कि ये जो डिकेड है, ये डिकेड टेक्नोलॉजी का डिकेड होगा, डिकेड ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी, जिसमें टेक्नोलॉजी डेवलपमेंट बोर्ड ने भी अपने तरफ से एक कोशिश की कि हम जो अच्छे और नए टेक्नोलॉजीज को, इनोवेटिव टेक्नोलॉजीज को हम कॉमर्शियल लेवल पे सपोर्ट करें। तो आज उसकी भी हम लोगों ने देखा कि 2025 उस डिकेड के मध्य में है, तो हमने ऐसी कौन सी टेक्नोलॉजीज जो एक सुपर 30 के नाम से हम ऐसे टेक्नोलॉजी का एक कंपाइलेशन आज आपके समक्ष प्रस्तुत करेंगे, जो 30 बेस्ट टेक्नोलॉजी हमने चूज किया, जो टीडीबी ने इन 5 सालों में प्रेजेंट किया है और हम लोगों ने सपोर्ट किया है। इसके अलावा अभी कुछ दिन पहले ही, आई थिंक 2 सप्ताह पहले, युग्म कॉन्फ्रेंस और जो भी एक कॉन्क्लेव था, उसमें प्रधानमंत्री जी ने बात कही थी कि 3T की बात कही थी, टैलेंट, टेम्परामेंट एंड टेक्नोलॉजी। सो टेक्नोलॉजी तो सभी जगह है, उसके बगैर हम कुछ कुछ सोच नहीं सकते, और उसी को सेलिब्रेट करने के लिए साइंटिफिक कम्युनिटीज की अचीवमेंट और उनके कंट्रीब्यूशन को हम याद करने के लिए आज यहाँ पे उपस्थित हुए हैं, और एक प्रण लेने के लिए भी उपस्थित है कि आगे भी हमें इसमें कुछ करना है। मैं इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ आपको एक बार पुनः राष्ट्रीय प्रौद्योगिकी दिवस में हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए हम सभी को धन्यवाद करते हैं, और आप लोगों का सभी को हार्दिक स्वागत करते हैं।
National Technology Day commemorates the momentous events of 11th of May 1998, when India conducted successful nuclear tests under Operation Shakti, and saw the maiden flight of the indigenously developed Hansa-3 aircraft. In recognition of these achievements, then Prime Minister Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee declared 11th May as National Technology Day.
Range ready? Ready.
Today at 15:45 hours.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
India conducted 3 underground nuclear tests in the Pokhran range.
The first anniversary of the second nuclear tests at Pokhran was celebrated as Technology Day on the 11th of May. A series of events marked the occasion. While addressing a ceremony to felicitate scientists, Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee justified the Pokhran tests and stressed the need for further improvement of the country's defense.
Pokhran not only brought strength to our national security, but also self-confidence to our national mind. It became the symbol of a resurgent India.
From Pokhran's historic sands to the skies where Hansa soared, India's legacy of ingenuity has always soared high.
पोखरण परमाणु परीक्षण के जरिए भारत ने न केवल अपने वैज्ञानिक सामर्थ्य को साबित किया, बल्कि भारत के वैश्विक कद को एक नई ऊंचाई भी दी थी।
May 11, a date etched in India's story, celebrating triumphs of innovation and the relentless pursuit of excellence. From Pokhran's historic sand to the skies where Hansa soared, India's legacy of ingenuity has always soared high. We salute the pioneers, engineers, visionaries, scientists who laid the foundation of India's technological rise.
अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी ने जय विज्ञान कह करके उसमें एक कड़ी जोड़ दी और देश ने उसको प्राथमिकता दी। लेकिन अब अमृत काल के लिए एक और अनिवार्यता है, और वो है जय अनुसंधान। जय जवान, जय किसान, जय विज्ञान, जय अनुसंधान।
Today, India stands 39th in the Global Innovation Index and 6th in global IP filings. Quantum hubs, 32 petaflops of computing power, resilient climate tech, and 340 plus women scientists leading breakthroughs powering India's accent.
ये डेकेड मानव जात के लिए टेकेड का समय, टेक्नोलॉजी का डेकेड है। भारत के लिए तो ये टेकेड जिसका मन टेक्नोलॉजी से जुड़ा हुआ है।
Quantum labs, EV assembly lines, supercomputers, and computing edge climate research define our new era. This National Technology Day, we celebrate under the theme Yantra, a call to the fast-track innovation, research, and strategic tech leadership for India's future. Led by DST and TDB, Yantra envisions strategic autonomy in critical technologies, industry-academia synergies, private investments alongside government support, innovation-driven nation building.
Dr. Rajesh S. Gokhale, Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, highlighted the achievements in biotechnology.
As we gather here to celebrate National Technology Day, we not only commemorate the historic Pokhran nuclear tests conducted in May 11, as you just saw in the video, actually 1998, but was also reflect the remarkable technology strides that India has made since then, and more so in last decade in a very, very rapid way, actually. That is quite astounding for us to look at. I think it reminds us of a collective resolve to harness technology for national progress. In just a year, if you really think of how many things in Government of India has initiated, amazing speed along with partnerships. For example, we now can call ourselves, positioning ourselves as one of the global player in the technology era sector across multiple sectors. For example, whether it is quantum computing, artificial intelligence, to semiconductors, to clean energy, water innovations, space exploration, and biotechnology. We are witnessing breakthroughs that are shaping the future that are at an unprecedented scale, and also the speed and timelines are really, really very rapid actually. I think under the leadership of Honorable Minister, let me just talk to you about how biotechnology is shaping tomorrow's science and technology frontiers actually. I think biotechnology, once considered as a niche science area, is very rapidly emerging as a backbone of the central pillar of a nation's technological future. If you really look at it, was always thought to be perceived to be a scientific activity to be able to do things. However, now I completely believe that we have an established platforms that are capable of addressing some of the most pressing challenges of our times. Maybe climate change, food and nutrition, security, public health, and pandemic preparedness. I think the technologies that are going to be transformational, let me share some of these that are emerging very at a very rapid pace. I mean, cell and gene therapy, which until recently was considered as an experimental, now entering the mainstream framework with the recent first completion of a first clinical trial in India for the hemophilia B subjects, actually offering hopes for diseases that were once thought to be completely untreatable. Indian scientists, clinicians, and bioengineers are all playing a key role in advancing the ingenuity and determination of these activities. Similarly, the new tools of genome editing like CRISPR and other technologies that are changing the complete scenario at an unprecedented pace. The personalized medicine, next generation agriculture, bio-based manufacturing, these are actually are the strategic investments for the future of our country. And I think today's day is a resolve for us to completely take this forward at an unprecedented speed and prowess. Let me give you two shining examples that happened in last couple of years actually that stands really tall of this activity that boost our morale and activity. The first one is the CAR T cell therapy, a breakthrough in cancer treatment. It has been successfully developed indigenously in India, and for the first time, personalized immunotherapy has reached what you can offer to the patients at a fraction of the global cost that is actually available in the West. This is not just science in action. I call it science with compassion, access, and also affordability. That's the true sense of the scientific progress that we talk about. The second one has been the nephithromycin, the antibiotic, which was after 35 years have been identified as one of the key game changer in the country. It's developed for treating community-acquired pneumonia. Our country was always known for a generic medicines actually, whereas this one is kind of documented evidence that we are on the path of success of glory to really develop new molecules and new drugs that will actually be the game changer of this. And the pharmaceutical innovation and global biotech can continue to create waves all across the country and world. I think these breakthroughs are underpinned by visionary national initiatives coordinated by Department of Biotechnology under the Honorable Minister's leadership actually. And this is in partnership with BIRAC, which has been our industry partner and collaborator, as well as institutions of Biotechnology Research Innovation Council that are actually spread around the country and provides the innovation ecosystem actually. The projects like Genome India project has successfully sequenced 10,000 Indian genomes and lays the foundation of data-driven and precision healthcare actually. These are done for the healthy subjects, and now we need to, this sets a baseline standard for what our genomic variations are in the country for 83 populations all across our country's map. And this map now provides us ways to look at disease perspective, disease mutations, the drivers, particularly in the oncogenomes perspective. Lastly, but not the least, the BioE3 policy is steering us towards sustainable, inclusive, and high-performance biomanufacturing by aligning investments, infrastructure, and innovation across all the biotech industry. To truly take global bioeconomic role, actually, we need to really advance several aspects of our perspective. For example, we need to accelerate genome editing and advanced platforms, integrate AI and quantum technologies into various activities of biologic and life sciences, scale clinical translational research and biofoundry infrastructure and biomanufacturing capacity, build a robust regulatory ecosystem, and ensure equitability, affordability, and accessibility to all citizens. Let us remember the future is not built in silos. Our strength will come from our ability to integrate ourselves, our research, our disciplines, from AI to genomics, from digital systems to biological platforms. India's success story will be written not just by the technologists, but by the collective commitment of the collaborations and innovations impact. Let us harness our talent, our data, which is the most critical, I think, of our country's process that we can really use really well, and our determination to build a smarter, healthier, and a more resilient India, powered by science and driven by the purpose.
Professor Abhay Karandikar, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology.
The Department of Science and Technology has been one of the key enablers for this technology development through various initiatives. One of them happens happens to be the Technology Development Board, which has helped in scaling the startups from their innovations and product developments to a growth scale. But in the department, we have been one of the pioneers in setting up incubators across the academic institutions and universities and research labs in the country. Today, the Department of Science and Technology has been supporting more than 150 incubators and has been supporting the startups through its flagship Nidhi programs, either in the form of providing seed support to the deep tech startups or in the form of nurturing and mentoring entrepreneurs through programs such as Nidhi Prayas and Nidhi EIR, Entrepreneurship in Residence. The Department of Science and Technology has launched many deep tech missions. National Quantum Mission is one of them, and Dr. Ajay Chaudhary happens to be the chairperson of the governing board of the National Quantum Mission. We also have a national mission on cyber physical system. There are missions that we are participating on climate change and clean energy. We are also, with our sister ministry, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, a part of National Supercomputing Mission. Through these various mission mode programs and R&D programs, we have been supporting the deep tech startups either in the area of cyber physical system or in the area of clean energy or in the area of quantum technologies. In fact, under National Quantum Mission, more recently, we have supported 8 quantum startups with total funding support of about 70 crores. And through our mission on cyber physical system, we would have supported more than 300 startups across our 25 mission hubs in the country. So it is clear that the Department of Science and Technology, working with our sister departments, Department of Biotechnology and other ministries like MIT and Department of Telecom and MNRE, have been supporting the deep tech startups to innovate in various areas of science and technology. Therefore, I think, as was mentioned by Mr. Pathak, we hope that in the coming years, we can take the spirit of innovations to achieve the strategic autonomy and our country becoming a product nation leading to the vision of Vikasit Bharat of our Honorable Prime Minister. On this National Technology Day, I would like to express my gratitude to scientists, engineers and innovators, both past and present, whose work has made our country stronger and more self-reliant. Let us reaffirm our commitment to harnessing the power of technology for the national progress and the global good. As Dr. Abdul Kalam has once said, dream, dream and dream, because it are the dreams which transforms into thoughts and thoughts they result in action. Let us dream of a future where we can lead not only in technology development for impacting our society and national cause, but also making a global impact in the coming years. Thank you very much for coming to celebrate this National Technology Day. I hope that together with the cooperation of all our scientists, engineers and innovators, we can realize the vision of a developed nation founded on the basis of science and technology. Jai Hind.
National Technology Day Lecture of Technology Sovereignty was delivered by Guest of Honor Padma Bhushan Dr. Ajay Chaudhary, co-founder HCL and Chairman Mission Governing Board, National Quantum Mission, Government of India.
As we look at the world today, and we are also in the midst of something like a war, there are major changes occurring all over the world. And these macro trends that I see that are really shaping the world in a very different way than what we have seen in the past. And these are happening at very accelerated pace. They're not at the old pace that we used to see in the past. And also, they're occurring concurrently. So these trends that I talk about, the first major trend is technology. I think the pace of change in technology is moving at a pace that, very tough to catch up. And the world has to now look at it in a very different way. And we have to respond as people, as society, to this change in technology again. As you can see, AI is making a huge impact globally, and everybody is struggling to find different solutions using AI. Till now, AI was not at the center of everything, but now pretty much it's becoming the center of a lot of areas. And if we look at AI, it's been there for 50 years. It's not anything new. But the pace of change that's happened since the launch of ChatGPT has been just mind-blowing. On an average, literally, you see something new happening every day, maybe every half a day. And maybe next few years, we'll see every hour and maybe every 10 minutes. So this kind of unprecedented change that's happening is something which we have never seen before. There's another thing that's happening, which is the global reset, as I call it. Reset in trade, in industry. Again, major changes are taking place, where producing or or manufacturing or designing is moving all over. And it used to be something different maybe 2 months ago. But since the new president came in the US, he has actually, taken it in a very different direction. And we now, as a world, need to respond to it. And as a country, we need to respond to it. And now need to take cognizance of the fact that China is a huge force today in technology. And also the changes that are taking place in geopolitics, where a lot of countries are becoming self-centered. It's a unipolar world. It is no longer a multipolar world. And in this unipolar world, again, the response from technology has to be very, very different. And what should India do to respond to this change that's taking place? And of course, huge impact with climate. We are disastrously close 2027 when we'll be at 1.5 degrees. So all these trends that are taking place are something that are impacting what we as a country need to do and what direction we should take in technology. We are a very vibrant democracy, but we also need to very seriously look at, again, all kinds of land grabbing, etc., that's taking place. And sovereignty has become the centerpiece that I think we should look at. Technology sovereignty is something that I really want to talk about. अभी तक हम लोग आत्मनिर्भरता की बात करते थे, अब हमें आत्मीयता की बात करनी पड़ेगी और इसको देखकर हमें जो चेंजेस हैं वो हमें आगे ले जाने पड़ेंगे. तो अभी तक we used to be a rule taker. Now we need to be a rule framer. And this rising on off US-China confrontation is also making things a lot difficult for us. But India has a phenomenal amount of advantages. And the biggest advantage is our talent pool. We have great technology capability, and probably science is the answer to the future of India. If you look at it, when the US looks at India, what do they see? Very large market and largest user of US technologies. If you look at Meta, we are the largest user of Facebook in the world. So I think we have something which we can position ourselves very well if we really make sure that the world understands where we are coming from. And as we go forward, just the way it happened post-Pokhran, when a lot of technology was denied to us. And I think what will happen in this unipolar world as we look forward, that denial will be the new normal. And already the US has put conditions on export of quantum computers. GPUs is something that happened 5-6 months ago. So these are things that we are very used to. We've actually seen it at atomic energy and space. And atomic energy and space, both, we actually succeeded in creating our own technologies. And we were very, very successful. So where should we go as more and more of this denial will happen? And I think each of these, we typically as a country tend to respond extremely well to crisis. And this new crisis of technology denial and newer kinds of wars that will take place, wars will no longer be fought alone. We've seen what's happening in India, Pakistan. But as we go to the future, wars will not just be fought with arms and ammunition. They will be fought with the minds. And as one of the Senate members of the United States said a few years ago, Senator Ben Sasse, he said, the next wars will be fought with semiconductors. So these kind of challenges, these kind of changes are something that we must be able to take in account as we go forward and plan our strategy for the country. And if we look back at COVID, when the crisis happened, the whole of nation approach was what we saw. The government, the industry, research institutions, literally everyone got together and started to look at what needs to be done to handle COVID. And out of the woodworks emerged PPEs, vaccines, ventilators. Everything got created in a very short period of time. So somehow as a country, we respond extremely well to crisis. And I think this kind of new crisis that's happening today with the new unipolar world, we need to again respond in a whole of nation approach. And we now need to make sure that science and technology is at the center, but we now make sure that government, research institutions, industries, startups, all work together in terms of being a whole of nation approach. Till now, denials have happened from the US. Europe can also happen. I'm hearing that Europe is also considering certain technology denials. China has also put in place many denials. Gallium and germanium, rare earth elements, graphite, antimony, and delay in sending manpower, delay in ensuring equipment to come to Foxconn for manufacturing of Apple. These kind of things we are seing now. This is a different kind of war where denials are going to be the way the world will fight. And India's strategic choices are something that we must consider. And I absolutely believe that India's rise will be resisted. And you know which countries I'm talking about, but they will want to make sure India does not rise. India does not become a competitor. India must remain a consumer and a big market. That's good enough. They do not want us to rise in terms of many things that we are doing, and especially in technology. So where should we go? I think it's very, very clear and obvious, and the government has been taking extremely good steps to make these things happen. And I think what we need to do is to reduce dependence on US technology and China trade. We are actually sitting between two giants, and we are impacted by US technology, and on the other hand, we import a huge bunch of products from China. And as we saw in the war that's sort of happening today, China is very strongly with Pakistan, and they're giving all their technology and everything to Pakistan. So it's not in our interest to be just where we are today. We need to move forward and move very, very fast and do things that are different and things that are required for the future of the country, where our dependence is reduced over a period of time. So we need to create a next 10, 15-year plan where we need to, as Professor Karandikar says, we need to move from services to a product nation direction. And I think ANRF is a great beginning that DST and the government have made. It'll be a terrific start to what we are wanting to achieve with different technologies. And I think we need to go beyond ANRF, where DST and the government have announced RDI fund, which will take us to becoming product nation. So we have seen what is lacking in the country today. Research has been limited majorly to government and scientific institutions. The involvement of corporates in R&D has been extremely poor. And this is an area that needs serious change and direction from the government. I think government has to help kickstart this whole thinking and mindset change among corporates for investing more in R&D. In the past, we have actually used all kinds of incentives for R&D, and they've really not worked. So what we need to do is something completely different. And that is where this whole RDI fund that the government has envisaged is going to take center stage along with ANRF. It has to sit next to ANRF to take us forward in this whole journey to create our own critical technologies. And to achieve this, we need to, in a manner, go towards achieving technology sovereignty. As I said, आत्मीयता की तरफ जाना है. और इसके लिए we have to make sure that we invest in R&D in identified areas so that corporates, startups, SMEs, research institutions, education institutions work together to create products for the future in different technologies. Till now, there's been a lot of impetus in the research institutions to work from TRL 1 to maybe take it to TRL 6 and 7. But a major change was made by the government when the National Quantum Mission was set up. And when I started to look at how the Quantum Mission set its objectives, the major objective and the major change the government brought in its cabinet note itself was that the Quantum Mission must work towards creating products. It's not just that we need to go from TRL 1 to TRL 7. We now need to take it to TRL 9, and we need to involve startups to take the products to market in India and globally. So I think this direction that the government has given in the National Quantum Mission needs to be taken forward in every area that we can think of. It has to be a clear direction towards being a product nation. Well, to achieve this technology sovereignty, we need to identify 10, 12 specific areas where we must look at taking a leadership position. So these could be artificial intelligence, these could be drones, could be telecom. Telecom, we've done extremely well. We have our own telecom stack, electric mobility, medtech and genomics, electronics and semiconductors, obviously, quantum. And we need to continue our journey towards making more and more software products out of India. Our focus till now has been on software services. This software services has served us extremely well. And we have $280 billion of exports taking place. If today software services were not there, India would be in trouble. But now this whole capability and skill set that we have developed in software needs to transform towards making software products. Good news is that we started started to see a lot of change here in the last 10 years. Many software product companies have been born, but that's not good enough. We need to create the Oracles of this world. We need to create the SAPs of this world. Yes, we have done a tremendous job in creating India Stack. UPI is something that is respected the world over. So if we can do UPI, we can do other areas too. And in private sector, if you see, Zoho is today a $1.5 billion company. My own company, HCL, is a $1.6 billion software product company. And this change is something that is we need to drive and make sure that we go towards products. Similarly, agri-tech is an area which has great potential for us to create technology and products and take a leadership position. Nuclear is a very important area. As large number of data centers get set up in the country, nuclear has to play a major role. We can't just depend on existing technologies. We need to use nuclear, and SMRs and MMRs are something that we need to develop on our own and create these capabilities. Power electronics is a very interesting, large area where we need to create our own technologies. With the direction that the Indian Semiconductor Mission is taking on creating compound semiconductor facilities, power electronics will have a great fillip because the inputs for power electronics are compound semiconductors. And things like cargo transportation, we need to move cargo much, much faster than what we do today. So there are large, interesting areas where science and technology can play a huge role. And how do we take this direction of creating our own technologies? We just cannot remain dependent because technology denial is going to happen whether we like it or not. So we need to create, in the next 15 years, a Qualcomm out of India. We need to create an open AI out of India. That's the way we have to look at. And also, it should not just remain in research and education. It needs to be in the industry. Industry has to be deeply involved in making this happen. And we need to build companies that are indispensable. Look at what Taiwan has done. TSMC is indispensable. How do we do this in this country? It's something that we must put our heads down as nation first and make it happen. And the risk of inaction, as I pointed out earlier, are going to be that we'll become a bigger trade colony of China, technology colony of the US, and we'll continue to be stuck in the middle income trap. We also need to look very strongly at a very major area of concern, which is security. Security is something that we need to take into account as we look at developing this whole technology sovereignty area in the country. You look at the whole situation of electronics and semiconductors. Many years ago, I wrote a report for the government where I said that one day the electronics import bill of this country is going to be higher than the oil bill. It's pretty much happening today. We are importing too much of electronics in the country. And there are security implications of this import. So what are these security implications? If you look at every product that we are making today in the country under Make in India itself uses a lot of Chinese technology. We are using Chinese chips at many, many places. We have drones that we are manufacturing and making, but the components inside are from China. The chips are inside are from China. You look at our LED bulbs, chips are from China. Everything that you see, we are importing from China. And we all know that there are trapdoors inside Chinese chips. So we need to be very careful in terms of security implications of such areas. So I think, as I said earlier, ANRF and RDI are looking like great initiatives of the country. These two will join together to help kickstart research in the private sector. Private sector research is where we need to pay a lot of attention, and we need to think very strongly about our right to win in each of these areas that I have identified earlier. One major area of concern, as I've been working in the quantum mission, is how do we make ease of doing research happen in the country? Today, there are issues there, and we need to make sure that all those roadblocks are removed so researchers can go and do more research than doing administration. And one major area where we can make success in scaling our startups and private sector companies who are creating products is to provide government procurement and demand aggregation as a very major weapon, which is used by every country. I mean, you look at the United States, Biden put aside $500 billion for Make in America. So why we can't do it is something that we must think. That the government has a program for it, preferential market access, but unfortunately it doesn't really work. So that is a very major area which needs to be taken into account as we start to go towards technology sovereignty. And today there are other opportunities for us to take a leapfrog in technology also. A lot of countries are aging, and as these countries are aging, there are great opportunities for India to go and buy companies out there or buy technologies out there and leapfrog and start not from zero, but maybe from 30. So this is something that we must attempt to do. So what will this result in? I guess it will result in strategic autonomy, tech sovereignty, and we need to create national champions that at one day dominate global markets. What's going for India is our scientific and technology capability and the Indian mind. But pace at which we work has to be very different, because as I said earlier, the pace at which the changes are taking place, technologies are moving, the current pace that we are on needs to be dramatically faster.
The theme was Yantra, Yugantar for advancing new technology, research and acceleration. Yugantar marks India's rise as a global tech leader, while Yantra embodies India's scientific heritage, innovation and scalable solutions. Yugantar, meaning an epochal shift, is emblematic of the country's momentum in transitioning from technology adaptation to global technology leadership. Dr. Jitendra Singh, Union Minister of Science and Technology, Government of India, remarked.
And the day began with the motivation and the idea given to us by the then Prime Minister Vajpayee. And incidentally, as was being mentioned by Pathak, the Silver Jubilee, the 25th National Technology Day, was addressed by Prime Minister Modi. And I think, in other words, the concept or the idea of National Technology Day was conceptualized by Prime Minister Vajpayee, and it has come of age during the regime of Prime Minister Modi. And incidentally, this year we are observing National Technology Day when, over the last few days, there has been abundant opportunity actually for India to demonstrate its scientific prowess to the rest of the world. And the armed conflict these days is more or less driven by technology. Any warfare today, or a modern warfare, is largely, hugely, entirely technology driven. And therefore, it was a vindication of India having acquired supremacy in every sphere of scientific technology, including defense. And as Dr. Ajay was rightly pointing out, that we have to be more and more indigenous, because we can't be getting away from the geopolitical constraints. And of course, every country will first watch her interest, depending on the situation and circumstances prevailing at that given point of time. And therefore, I think it's also opportunity to recall that soon after this government came in 2014, Prime Minister Modi gave us the concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat. And that concept has stood the test of time more than evidently in the last 4 days. Whatever you saw happening on the television screens was more or less indigenous, was a creation of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and also a creation of what the Viksit Bharat is going to be. And I think for the first time, the world has realized, as was being also mentioned by one of the former ministers of Pakistan, India today is not the India of yesterday. And I'm glad and proud that this kind of reaffirmation or reassertion for Mother India has come through the tools of science, technology, with which, incidentally, we happen to be associated at this point in time. And I also compliment the team, TDB, Mr. Pathak, for having over the years been instrumental in supporting some very important, innovative, creative ventures. When Dr. Ajay was referring to drones, it suddenly occurred to me that one of the first major drone projects was funded by the Technology Development Board. That 1,000 drone visual which you saw during beating the retreat on one of the Republic Day celebrations was actually funded by Technology Development Board. That day you celebrated the fascination and the romanticism of it, the manner in which colored the skies. But what actually the drones can do, you have witnessed over the last 4 days. So it's a providential coincidence that we celebrate the Technology Development Day at a time when we are actually celebrating some of the successes that are emanated from Technology Development Board and as a whole from the Ministry of Science and Technology. I must also compliment the team TDP for having institutionalized the practice of coining one theme every year for this day. And the theme that they have very thoughtfully, though indulging in some smart jugglery, have coined is yantra, as the lady anchor was mentioning. So it took me some time to understand what it was, but I appreciate the intellectual jugglery that has gone behind it. Because there's a very narrow demarcation between intellectualism and smartism. And Oscar Wilde once said that those who, in their bid to become intellectuals, fail to become so, they at least become wicked. I'm glad Pathak has not become so, but I appreciate the smart intellectualism. And yantra is in fact carrying more than one connotations, particularly at a time when we are going through some of the not very calm moments today, considering the situation that the region is going through. So yantra stands for Yugantar, for advancing new technology, research and acceleration. So when he was explaining that to me, I was trying to understand and trying to explain to myself how I would explain to them. Because whatever he has done, I have to take the responsibility. Like they say, a chancellor should own the vices of the vice chancellor. So since he is working with one of our wings, but then I thought, yes, you could actually justify it. Because Yugantra, of course, Yugantar is transforming Yug. Indeed, this is a transforming century, transforming India. And I'm trying to do what Pathak would not have done. And this transformation is being driven by advancing new technology, of course, again, true. And this transformation is also being driven by research, again, true. And this transformation is being driven with acceleration, with speed and pace, which Dr. Ajay was trying to emphasize. So I think we have every reason to appreciate this acronym. Though in our haste, sometimes we coin the acronym first and then try to coin the name out of that. But I'm glad that we have successfully managed to do whichever way started, whether the acronym first or the other first. And if you look for reasons for this celebration, I think this is what we have been or what have been talking about in the last few moments about the kind of celebration that has happened across the country. I think this is a cumulative outcome of the last 10, 11 years. The manner in Prime Minister Modi actually gave an impetus. As I said, he gave us the concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat. He gave us the concept of modernizing our technologies, living up to global benchmarks, following global strategies. Most of the equipment that you saw being used in the last 4 days, even in our defense sector, was actually acquired in the last 10 years. It's something which is not very often emphasized even by the media. If you go into the details of all those, because I don't wish to talk out of turn or more than what I should be talking, but you go into the detail of each of the defense equipment which has come into use the last 3-4 years, it was developed, it was acquired or TOT done only in the last few years, and definitely after 2014, because you need to have the political will and the political leadership, the political policy to move in that direction. There is no dearth of scientific acumen, but the direction has to be determined by the political dispensation of the day. And if this government has moved in a particular direction in the last 11 years, I think the vindication of that stands today. In fact, the other day I was reading a piece by Dr. Ramarao, the person behind Akash, this S400, whatever you say. And I was really delighted when he said that the manner in which these equipments have functioned were much more beyond his own expectation when he was leading the team that was developing it. And therefore, over the last 10 years, as was being mentioned by speaker after speaker, we went up from 350 startups to 1.75. Our global innovation index, as was being mentioned by Rajesh also, from 39 to 81. Our patents are 64,480, but what is more important is that almost 56% of these patents are Indian residents. Earlier, the refrain would be, Khurana goes outside to achieve something. Nothing can happen here. Now, this 56% born here, brought up here, groomed here, and made a success story over here. And then you take any of the streams associated with this ministry. Rajesh counted to you Fitromycin, the gene therapy, which is first of its kind, in fact, published by the New England Journal of Medicine, which is 200-year-old. I think one of the oldest journals in the world, besides the British Medical Journal, which is dedicated to the research in medicine. If they picked up this gene therapy, that means that it has been validated by all the possible benchmarks. And of course, vaccine is a story which gave this department all the visibility that it enjoys across the world. Similarly, space, I don't have to reiterate because it becomes quite a favorite subject even in the media. And I find sometimes the media anchors also talking about space, sounding like, or at least trying to sound like space scientists. And the other day when I was talking to some of the media friends, I said in a lighter way, I said, we don't mind that because space actually has given us space in media also. Earlier on, nobody covered scientific works in mainstream media. Thanks to Chandrayaan, thanks to this Aditya, thanks to the stories of Gaganyaan, which is yet to happen, media has started finding us interesting to be covered. Similarly, quantum, you have Dr. Ajay there. Again, we are among the first. And I was just now, when we were holding the ceremony of calls, It was very impressive, Dr. Ajay telling me that they are supporting as many as 75 universities across the country, and not only supporting them technologically, knowledge-wise, financially, also supporting them to acquire land to set up their establishments. So I think this is a huge, huge support coming from a government sector. Normally it doesn't happen that way. And of course, there is still a scope for the private sector engagement as well. Our AI mission, our deep sea mission or deep ocean mission, though the Earth Sciences Secretary is not there because we are still trying to get over the compartments. I hope next time Pathak would also invite other science secretaries as well, but he was not there. So because this is an occasion which gives you an opportunity to own all of them. And of course, the National Green Mission, for which the government has already earmarked rupees 19,744 crore. And since defense makes news these days, at least yesterday and today, our defense sector exports have increased from rupees 2,000 crore to more than 16,000 crore again in the Modi regime. That is 8 times. And you saw the result of this in the last 4 days. We don't have to wait for our defense equipments to arrive. And as was being rightly mentioned, there may be constraints in actually getting that from other sources. So we have our own, in a way, we are now providing to others. And when the other manufacturing countries look for market over here, we are now actually qualifying or graduating to a level where we would be looking for market outside and we would have buyers from outside. And our indigenous, whether it's BrahMos is indigenous, Tejas indigenous, all this has happened in the last 1 decade or so. Not only that, for the nuclear mission, we have earmarked 20,000 crore, which is not only going to be a warfare project, in fact, for the clean energy. And the other day I was saying it's going to be a true indication of what Homi Baba said when he was criticized for launching this atomic energy program, that India was up to some mischief. And he said, no, our nuclear program is totally dedicated to peaceful purposes. So we are also now setting an example before the world. The tools of warfare can be equally useful in peace times for the benefit of mankind. The National Geospatial Policy, we are among the better ones, which again came handy in the last 3-4 days. The semiconductor mission, and of course, as was being mentioned by Dr. Ajay also, the Anusandhan National Research Foundation, which is actually still evolving. Our GERD has gone up from 60,196 crore to 1,27,281 crore, more than double. This is something which was also mentioned by Honorable Prime Minister on that innovation conclave. And if you see our budget, each of the science stream budgets has been increased by more than 100% over the last 10 years. If you see the DST strictly, it is an increase of 926%. Sounds fascination because it is 2,777 crore has gone up to 28,509 crore. If you see the DBT budget from 1,485,000 crore, it has gone up to 3,447 crore, which means more than 130%. I'm only referring to the secretary sitting over here. But otherwise, of course, if you also talk of the earth sciences, it's gone to 1,281 crore to 3,658 crore. And space, of course, from 5,615 crore to 13,416 crore. But mind you, this is not about all. This is what the Modi government is contributing from the state treasury. But before 2014, this was about all. This was the beginning and the end of it. So on the one hand, the state treasury has contributed and started contributing more than 100%. At the same time, it has also opened the doors for you to make collections from other sources. The private sector has been opened up. The National Research Foundation has been opened up. The collaborations has been given a free hand. The FDI has been given a free hand. So your pool has been. So it's just like I am contributing to you from the government fund and then also allowing you to use other sources, which was not happening. The government funding was meager and there was no room or no permissions for private participation. Also opened up the nuclear sector. And then to facilitate, we have One Nation, One Portal. And I think from the point of view, because I, as an academician, I think it gave me a particular delight when that One Nation, One Subscription decision was taken. Because we have gone through times, both as students, as teachers, when we didn't receive the journals that we wanted. In those days, most of the transport happened by shipping. So we would receive a European journal or a British journal, because earlier on the entire science was with Britain. Then, of course, by 80s, it started shifting to America. The journal would arrive 1 month later. So in the month of May, I would receive the journal of March. And sometimes you had actually to guide students who were doing your thesis under you. It was a huge constraint. It would not be easy to. So this has come as a great relief. Only those who are associated with the business of teaching and learning would understand. Now you have access through information technology. And by making it one subscription, you make it easy for the institutions. So many of the institutions could not subscribe to all the journals because because they had their own limitations in budget. So you had to decide. And sometimes I've also come across visiting most of the institutions. Some of the institutions would, take turns. For example, this year from Britain you have this journal. Next year from UK you have the other journal, which was not actually very doing justice to the students. So such a whole lot and all these decisions have been taken very thoughtfully and been possible because we had a government which was supporting. And therefore, without taking long, because as chief guest, you're not supposed to talk like a faculty, which I was doing before 2014. So I have to wind up. But I think as we move on, we look forward to the ascent of India to the pedestal of 2014. And the National Technology Day today, though it is referred to as National Technology Day, but I think it truly heralds the international, though being National Technology Day, it heralds the international recognition of India 2047.
This year's celebration featured keynote speeches of different experts on the future of tech commercialization in India, product launch, exhibitions, award ceremonies, and panel discussions. With this issue of Science Magazine ends. Reading voice, Nisha Bharadwaj, and presented by Dilip Jha. This broadcast came to you from the Indraprastha channel of Akashvani, Delhi.